for me. But less than UKIP. Okay. All right. And so then you take that as a relative share of the vote.
That's where we've got 4.1 million.
Yeah.
2015, UKIP got 3.9 million.
Okay. Not much better. I'm surprised that it's, with the Tory party in such a free fall, you'd think that they should be doing better.
I think it's taken, they may well start taking this office.
Oh yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Consecutive votes.
Oh yeah, practically the whole North East. Yeah.
Please be seated, Council. Now, yes, good evening everyone. I would like to welcome everyone here this evening to this meeting of Newcastle City Council, and also welcome anyone who is watching us online this evening. Can we first of all have the apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We've had apologies from Councillors Chisholm, Cummings, Fairley, Hall, Hobson, Joanne, Keating, Kilgour, Lowson, Powers, Sadiq, Samad, Stevenson, Stokell-Walker and Wright.
Gosh. Any other apologies that we've missed there? Yes, Councillor Hay? Adam Walker as well. Okay, we've got that. Is that it? Any more? Any more for any more? No? Okay. And if we move on now to the minutes of the previous meeting that was held on the 12th of June, do we agree these are the correct record? Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. There are a couple of errors. Bottom of page 3, it says Councillor Cookson asked a supplementary question regarding the 18-month trial of filter on, it says on the East Coast Main Line. I think it should be under the East Coast Main Line. And the second one is bottom of page 7, the motion scrapping two-child benefit cap. It says the motion was seconded by Councillor Hartley. It was actually Councillor Austin. And on page 8, you congratulated Councillor Austin about his maiden speech, not Councillor Hartley.
Does Council agree those changes? Agreed. Okay, fine. The next item on the agenda is to move on to official announcements. And we have 3 official announcements to make. And the first one is something that is personally an issue of considerable sadness to myself. And it's regarding the late Honorary Alderman Isabel Cooney, who sadly passed away on the 7th of June, as many of you will be aware. Isabel was a councillor for 18 years, first elected in 1998 in Fenham Ward, and she served with great distinction until 2006. When Isabel's late husband Terry was the city's Lord Mayor, she served as Lady Mayoress from 1989 through to 1990, and she was immensely proud when her daughter and my colleague Councillor Hazel Stevenson served as Lord Mayor a few years ago, and I'm conscious that probably Hazel's watching this online and she knows how proud I am of her and how sad I feel about her mother. Isabel cared deeply about her community when she grew up and spent her life and was justly, where she grew up and spent her life, and was justly awarded the honour of being made alderman for her many years of outstanding service. and she leaves behind a wonderful legacy. Isabel will be deeply missed, not least of all by myself, but fondly remembered by myself and her family and many others, and all those whose lives she enriched in so many ways over so many years. So, Council, as a mark of respect, can I now ask Council to stand for a minute's silence, please? Thank you. Yes, many thanks, Council. Thank you. A fitting tribute to a wonderful lady, Isabel, and she'll be sadly missed by so many people. The second announcement I'd like to make relates to the honours list, and on behalf of Council, I'd like to congratulate all those with a connection to Newcastle City who were recognised in the King's Birthday Honours list, and would like to pay particular tribute to Jen Hartley, the Council's Head of Economic Development, who was awarded the MBE for her services. So well done to Jen, absolutely brilliant. The third announcement I'd like to make, and I'd like to first of all thank Councillor Campion for drawing this to my attention, the importance of supporting the England football team and their events happening this evening that we know about, by raising the flag of St George outside the Civic Centre. As a city, we have a strong connection to the tournament, with a number of current and former Newcastle United players participating, and I'm sure that we all wish our own players Anthony Gordon and Kieran Trippier and the England team as a whole every success tonight and in the final, should we reach the final. And of course this would be a wonderful welcome to the city, because we'll be welcoming the competition as a host city to Newcastle in 2028. So to have England as the holders, I think would be absolutely brilliant. So my thanks to Councillor Campion for drawing that to my attention. Thanks very much indeed. The next item on the agenda is correspondence, and I don't think we have any correspondence. Is that correct? No correspondence? No. Petitions, I don't think any petitions have been submitted so far, no. So we go on to item 6, which is public questions, and our friend Brian Moore, right, Mr. Moore. I probably don't need to tell you what the sort of formalities are, but anyway, you know that you are limited in the amount of time you can speak, and also limited in the amount of time that you can respond to the...
I'm not responding.
Okay. Over to you then, Councillor Moore.
Bloody point then.
Sorry, over to you then, Mr.
Dear Councillor, with Fulwell 73 confirming the financial backing is in place to fund the Crown Works Studio in Sunderland, which will cost over 400 million, supported by funding from the North East Combined Authority of up to 120 million, Crown Works Studios will transform the economy of the North East, spurring a creative industrial revolution in one of the UK's most exciting sectors and generating 336 million a year for the regional economy. It will enhance the UK's offer to the global film and high-end TV industry and enable the North East to play a far greater role in the future growth, while thanking the efforts by Sunderland City Council to help secure the investment in the film studio concept. The selection of Sunderland, with its poor transport links, with no direct reliable train services to London, no commercial airport, the A19, which is not fit for full purpose, a severe lack of arts infrastructure within Sunderland, an embarrassing lack of hotels for the transient workforce associated with film production. To be blunt, in the region it is about possibly the worst location for a film studio in the North East. As a film studio is being supported by the single largest public investment since Nissan, which is also in Sunderland, a reasonable person would expect the whole region would gain from this jobs bonanza of up to 8,000 jobs, just not one remote corner. Unlike Sunderland, Newcastle is the regional transport hub, including an international airport, a seemingly unlimited number of trains to the rest of the country, a direct link to the UK motorways, a plethora of hotels and world-recognised art scene. The choice the region and the elected mayor is the film studio can be sited at the end of a branch line or at the regional transport, arts and hotels hub. Can I ask council to work with Kim McGuinness in getting the film sited in Newcastle so that the North East will become a major destination for film and high-end TV production creation of one of the Europe's largest film-making complex? Let's give the film studio a Premier League location to achieve a Champions League result. That's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moore. Thank you. Nice reference there to the footballing. Over to you then, Councillor Hay, for a response.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I'm hesitant to thank you for the question, Mr. Moore, because I don't want to trash the neighbours and I don't want to trash Sunderland. But I will respond to the question put forward. And I think one thing that we can agree on is that we both share the view that Newcastle is the greatest city in the world. The Crown Works studio is an amazing opportunity for the whole region. Of the 8,450 new jobs set to be created regionally, many of them will be filled by our city's residents. These roles will exist not just across the film and TV industries, or even just the wider creative economies, but across a range of disciplines, from makeup artists, accountants, caterers to taxi drivers. Newcastle has a proud reputation for creativity and innovation, and we have an excellence in these fields, both in business and academia. Under the leadership of Councillor Kemp, we are the first region in the country to develop a regional industrial strategy. Councillor Kemp, in his role as Economy Portfolio Lead on the new Combined Authority, will be working closely with the Mayor and the new Labour government on this strategy. Our creative and cultural industries will be hugely important to our regional economy and a significant job creator. The development of this strategy and the Crown Works Studio project is a huge chance for Newcastle's thriving content creation and design, digital and technology industries to grow. Sitting alongside the work of Generator attracting music labels to the city and New Writing North bringing publishers here, this investment is potentially a game changer for the region. Our teams worked with Fulwell 73 when they first engaged with the region in 2021, with plans to open a studio. After extensive research looking at a number of sites across the northeast, the brownfield site on the banks of the River Wear, with its large land availability, was deemed to be the most suitable for the development, which is set to become a world-leading centre for film and high-end TV. Fulwell 73 have strong links to Sunderland, and it's where their founder, Leo Pearlman, was born. He created the series
30 seconds, Councillor Hayes.
Sunderland Until I Die, based on the football club, and it's ultimately their decision as where to locate their studio. The impact on the wider regional economy will be transformational and will drive regional economic growth and contribute to levelling up by supporting the creation of up to 8,450 jobs, both all direct, indirect and induced, full-time, part-time and freelance across the North East by 2033.
Draw to a close, Councillor Hay, if you wouldn't mind.
The studio development is recognised as a major regional investment opportunity which can significantly accelerate development of the regional screen industries envisaged by North East Screen Industry Partnerships, of which Newcastle plays a leading role.
Can I remind you, please, to try and draw things to a close?
Yes.
You're over your time.
Yeah, but it is an important subject and I am responding to it. I know the football's on, Lord Mayor, but I do want to finish. Working with key local and regional partners, the project will build on the proactive development work that has taken place across the wider region following signing of the MOU between the BBC and the wider regional representatives in September 21. And just to finish on a positive note, Council will have seen the positive news that True North, a post-production company, have announced today that they're setting up and coming to Newcastle. And so we will play a part in post-TV production for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hay. Mr Moore, despite foregoing your entitlement to reply, would you like to reply? You have 1 minute to reply to the response from the Cabinet member.
A very quick reply.
Thank you.
Newcastle has everything this film studio needs. It has transport, it has hotels, it has everything. Please, Councillor, change your mind and put Newcastle at the centre of film production. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr Moore. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We now move on to item 7, which is questions by members. We have 3 questions marked for oral reply, and those questions are deemed to have been put. So the first question comes from Councillor Lovett. It's in relation to bus stops on Gosforth High Street, and I invite Councillor Williams to respond to the question.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. On Monday the 9th of January 2017, passengers of bus services 30, 31, 35 and 33 and 554 were moved to a new bus stop.
Could I just clarify?
Sorry?
No, that's right. Sorry, yes.
To be responded to by the member.
Oh, I can't. Is Councillor Williams? Yes. Okay, Councillor Williams, can you respond to the question, please?
Sorry, Lord Mayor, I've having trouble getting in on my laptop, having arrived a little late, so I was hoping that he would be allowed to read out the question, giving me time to get to my response.
Shall I read it out?
No, it's okay. If the question's deemed to have been put, so I'll just over to Councillor Williams, please. Councillor Williams, would you like to respond?
I'm just working on it. I don't know.
Okay, well, question 2 is for Councillor Williams as well, so I don't know whether it would be, I don't know if it would make life any easier. Yeah. Councillor Williams, are you having problems with the technology?
I'm slowly getting there.
Okay, well, in that case, if Councillor Kemp would like to go to the other microphone, and in the interest of moving on with the business, that's a very constructive suggestion. So we'll move on. I'll come back to you, Councillor Williams. So we'll move on to the final oral question, which is deemed as put by Councillor Ferguson about the concerns raised by Newcastle Football Club fans about human rights abuses in Saudi Arabia. So over to you, Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. We pride ourselves on being a diverse, inclusive and tolerant city. As Leader of Council, I expect all organisations based in Newcastle to share these important values. As a city of sanctuary, I share concerns from colleagues in the Council chamber and members of our community about human rights abuses across the world. I will never condone or seek to defend instances where human rights have been violated and international law has been broken. Nor has this administration attempted at any stage to sweep those concerns under the carpet. As we've made clear in the past, it is important to recognise it is for government to take on the role of addressing human rights abuses at a national level. The newly elected Prime Minister recently made clear that his government do not want to put off international investment in football. He also made it clear that it would be the role of a new independent regulator to scrutinise football club ownership That is not the role of this administration. We've enjoyed a long-standing relationship with Newcastle United. St James's Park is the beating heart of the city. I'm sure that everyone in this chamber will agree that Football Club is a source of immense pride for our residents. The club make a huge contribution both on and off the pitch, and a successful Newcastle United can only be a good thing for our residents and our city. I've had the honour of recognising the achievements of both the men and women's teams in civic receptions here in this building. I will maintain the position that we do not think it is fair to blame those involved in the day-to-day management of a football club with human rights abuses. That is a view shared by thousands of our residents across the city, many of whom I have spoken to on this very issue. We have built positive relationships with the club since the takeover, and I will make no apology for lobbying them on behalf of residents of this city. I find it surprising that those in this chamber would criticise me for trying to secure funding for those most deprived communities and those people suffering poverty. It is a reality of 14 years of a Conservative government that we have some of the highest levels of deprivation in Western Europe. Like with business leaders across the city, we have continued to work with the club and the Newcastle United Foundation to find ways to support those still suffering every single day from the cost of living. That is our duty as elected members. Like local authorities across the country, we'll also look at opportunities to drive investment and growth to benefit all our residents. Newcastle is not alone in this. International investment creates jobs, opportunity and boosts the city economy, and that ultimately puts money in the pockets of our residents. It is an important responsibility, one we take seriously.
30 seconds, Councillor Kemp.
And we will continue to work collaboratively to attract international investment from across the world.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Kemp. Supplemental from Councillor Ferguson. I have two further supplementals, but over to Councillor Ferguson first.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you for that response, Councillor Kemp. If human rights abuses are for national government, then local investment in the city is unquestionably for the council. So will Newcastle learn from the example in Manchester, where an at best credulous eye was cast by the Labour administration there over substantial investment plans in the city, particularly and substantially from Abu Dhabi, with the egregious result that in the midst of an affordable housing crisis there, a multi-million luxury penthouse was named after Engels?
Councillor Kemp.
Sorry, I'm not quite clear what the question was. Councillor Ferguson, sorry.
The question
Can we make it succinct rather than go through the whole question again?
Not just Ferguson, what was the actual...
Will you pay much closer attention to the investment coming into the city than has been the case in Manchester, where in an affordable housing crisis...
Okay, right, okay. It's just, will I pay more attention? I can't possibly answer that with real certainty, because I can't say what level of scrutiny the leadership of Manchester placed over the investments. What I would say is we have an integrity-based investment view of the city, and we will take our duties and responsibilities about appropriate investment in the city as a priority.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. I have two supplementals, Councillor Mark Mitchell and Councillor Taylor. So if you'd like to make your way to the microphone. Thank you. Councillor Mitchell first.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. As this is my first time speaking in the chamber, I think this counts as my maiden speech, so I will perhaps take this opportunity first of all to congratulate all my Labour colleagues in the chamber on their victory in the recent general election, but also to congratulate my Liberal Democrat colleagues on the superb result, and also to...
Can we keep it to the question, please, Councillor Mitchell? We're not into electioneering here. If you can keep it to a question. Okay.
Sorry, I think I'm addressing councillors, but thank you, Lord Mayor.
Well, the question is...
And to also congratulate my Green and Independent colleagues on their increase in MPs. I think to the question, the leader has talked about the role of government and the role of this council, but when the leader of the council joins trade missions, I think it is appropriate that he asks the government what the aims and objectives of those are. So I would ask the leader to give a commitment to this chamber that he is, if he's asked to join future trade missions, that he does specifically ask the government what they will be doing to raise human rights in those missions.
Can we keep it to a concise question, please?
Yes.
Councillor Mitchell, okay?
Sorry, can you give me another 20 seconds?
We seem to be launching into a bit of a speech.
Thank you.
Sorry? It is a maiden speech, but it's also a question to the Leader of Council. Okay, then, Councillor Mitchell.
And the other thing that I would ask that he also raise with government is the fact that, frankly, the UK's modern slavery legislation, while it talks a lot of words, does nothing actually to combat modern slavery. And again, this is an issue that people in this city care a lot about, and it is something that he, as a Labour leader, can raise directly with the Labour government. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Before I invite Councillor Kemp to respond, perhaps we can applaud a maiden speech by Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Ken. Congratulations on your maiden speech, Councillor Mitchell, and thank you for your thanks to all parties. Just for a factual response, I haven't joined any trade government delegation, so I couldn't possibly make comment as to whether I should or shouldn't have inquired. But if I were ever to be invited, I would undertake that question. On the human rights piece, if you wish to send something through that it would be helpful for us to submit, I'd be very happy to do so.
Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. In November 2022, I brought a motion to this council on de-twinning from Taiwan in China due to their appalling record on human rights abuse, and that motion was supported unanimously by this council. I'm therefore a little concerned to hear that Councillor Kemp thinks that investment is the most important thing. Is there any country that he won't accept investment from due to their human rights abuses, and is this something we should pay more attention to in future?
So firstly, could I point out, Councillor, that I have not said that, so please do not put words into my mouth. I have not said that international trade is the be-all and end-all. Frankly, I find that quite insulting. We've said it's about integrity and having a values-based policy, which we will have, which is why we, as a Labour administration, introduced an inclusive economic strategy which places our residents at the heart of everything we do. So actually, the point around de-twinning, frankly, if you want your headline, choose to put it in your Focus newsletter, Wendy. It's appalling. We are very, very ethically based as a city. We are a city of sanctuary. If you listen to the speech I made, rather than try to make your headline, you wouldn't have needed to raise the question.
Okay, Councillor Kemp, thank you. I don't know whether Councillor Williams has got the technology sorted out yet.
Apologies, Lord Mayor.
To return to the first question, which was from Councillor Lovett in relation to bus stops on Gosforth High Street.
Yes, apologies, Lord Mayor. I'm trying to go paper-free. I really need to make sure I can get in and be ready in time. So apologies for that. In answer to question one from Councillor Lovett, we've recently introduced traffic restrictions in Gosforth High Street, and we're reviewing feedback and data prior to making a decision whether the current restrictions are made permanent. The time period for this experimental order will be due presently. We will review the bus stops in light of the order being made and the bus service improvement plan, the BSIP work we are about to embark on. This means that we will review shelters on Gosforth High Street this year as part of the ongoing works. We undertake to carry out the review of bus stops and engagement with the public in the very early days of the design work and process. We anticipate delivery of these works as part of the BSIP programme.
Thank you very much, Councillor Williams. Supplemental, Councillor Lovett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Williams, I don't think you've really answered the question that I've asked in the oral. It was specifically to do with the bus shelter for the 30, 31, 35. Our residents of Kenton, Red House Farm and Forden have not had a bus shelter for over 8 years, or coming up to 8 years. They have to stand in freezing cold, wind, rain, snow, all weathers. There isn't a bus shelter close enough for them to get from that to the bus stop in time for them to catch the bus. So would I be able to get a written question on when we have a time frame for written answer to the question, when we have an actual time for a bus shelter at that bus stop, And the question also asks about a temporary bus shelter.
One supplemental question only, Councillor Lovett. We seem to be straying into a string of questions.
Okay, so
okay.
I didn't get an answer to the
okay,
question
well,
that I asked.
You've put the one supplemental. Councillor Williams?
Yeah, so Councillor Williams, could you answer the question that I've asked rather than tell me that you're waiting for a consultation? Thank you.
Councillor Williams?
Councillor Lovett, I'm sure you'd appreciate that these things are part of overall schemes, and the review is taking place and we will see what to do. I can send you this answer I've given you in writing, and also ask, would you like to be more explicit in what you want me to have a written answer to?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Williams.
So if you could write to me.
We can't stray into further questions, so I'm sure that you can correspond with that. Okay, thanks, Councillor Lovett. Thank you. If Councillor Williams would like to stay at the microphone then. The second oral question was from Councillor Mark Mitchell relating to the installation of traffic lights at the junction of Netherby Drive and Silver Lonnon. Councillor Williams?
Yep, we looked again at the road safety data and there have been no further incidents recorded since our previous response. We therefore consider that no significant changes are required at this junction. However, the existing road markings would benefit from a refresh, and an order has been placed for these to be refreshed. We acknowledge that during busier periods it can be difficult for vehicles to turn right out of Netherby Drive onto Silver Lonnon due to queuing traffic waiting at the pedestrian crossing to the north of Netherby Drive. In order to address this, we propose to introduce a yellow box on the northbound lane of Silver Lonnon to provide a protected space that right turners from Netherby Drive can use to turn into. We will need to consult with our technical consultees and with local residents before this can be provided, and we will undertake this work during the current financial year.
Councillor Mitchell, supplemental.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor, you already have the views of 400 residents on this issue, and they have been very clear what they want to see at that junction. And once again, you're doing exactly what you did in the last question, which is rather than actually listening to what the residents have already said they want, you are proposing to do something different and to spend yet more time on consultation. You've got the information from residents as to what they want to see at this junction. And frankly, what you're talking about will not address the rat running onto other streets, the people avoiding that junction.
Councillor Mitchell, please. Okay, we're not entering into speeches here. It's a question. I don't know whether you wanted to respond to those remarks, Councillor Williams.
I don't think there's a question there to answer, Lord Mayor.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. We have two questions marked for written reply, which were received, and the responses are included in the supplemental agenda and published on the council website. So we move on to item 8 on the agenda, and I would remind councillors, colleagues, that we have 25 minutes for this particular item because there are several people wanting to ask questions, and I call on Councillor Kemp, the Leader of Council, to present his portfolio report. Councillor Kemp, thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Appreciating that there's a significant event taking place tonight, I thought I'd just bring a brief report which I'll run through page by page, so hopefully might reach extra time or penalties. So the purpose of bringing this report to Council is to reflect with you on the things we've achieved in the last year, engage with you on what we've learnt to shape what we do in the future. My report content has been discussed in detail at scrutiny, and those discussions are referenced in Appendix 3. I want to use this time at Council to focus on the big stuff, to tell you as leader about the good things we're doing for our city and to show you where we are heading. I'm sure that you will agree that rather than picking out line 21 on page 16 for an in-depth discussion, for example, although I'm sure Councillor Frew would be delighted to talk to you about implementing a green fleet procurement policy, we should be taking stock of the ways we routinely balance risk to ensure that our services deliver value for money and public good. For instance, anti-poverty. We're tackling poverty in Newcastle by addressing structural barriers to residents' rights to a decent, healthy life, no matter where they live. One of the key focuses this year has been on using our position as one of the largest employers in the city to unite our partners to pay the real living wage. For us, paying the newly increased real living wage to all our directly employed staff has meant that 843 employees will benefit from this rise. and we've mandated it in our new tendered contracts too, applying it to those that deliver services into our premises. As part of the Council's Real Living Wage accreditation, we've set up a City Action Group to grow the numbers of RLW registered employees in Newcastle so that we can increase the number of employees receiving the Real Living Wage from 50,000 to 75,000. We launched the group with a call to action for more than 100 employers at a fantastic event at St James's Park. This is a brilliant effort led by the Council under my leadership, and it has united employers in the city to take action to tackle in-work poverty. Inclusive economy. Through our inclusive economic strategy, we're building action to develop an inclusive local economy in everything we do. Just one of the focus areas we've delivered against this year is bringing employment support, training and opportunities to people in our city. There are many ways that we do this, but I'm going to single out the series of roadshows that we've run across the city designed to inspire young people, economically inactive people and residents who may not otherwise engage with us or other employers in the city. Through these roadshows, we've engaged with hundreds of people, building their awareness and for many starting them on their journey to new skills and a better job. We also delivered the first My Future, My Choice citywide employment and education event, showcasing up to 100 stall holders and inspirational talks to 5,000 young people. We also launched our first apprenticeship recruitment fair with increased attendance of 220 people and support for applications to be made on the day and following the event. We also rolled out our Get Online Newcastle training to Get Online champion volunteers who delivered over 812 volunteer hours, over 221 sessions for residents to help them gain access digital pathways to employment and skills. In Net Zero, the scope of our work to deliver our Net Zero action plan is immense, and whether it's the 12 million we've secured to insulate council homes and change connections to low carbon heat sources, or the 7.7 million of active travel network upgrades we've progressed that have improved pedestrian and cycling infrastructure, or the 55% of all new North East prosecutions for environmental crimes that have carried out, our work to make Newcastle an inclusive and sustainable city of the future is happening all day, every day. Our direction. Year 2 has been a second phase of our leadership, maintaining and growing delivery against our priorities, but also taking big steps to increase our organisation resilience and productivity so that we can be in a secure position to continue to achieve more and more for our residents. We refreshed our council plan as the cornerstone of our strategic thinking, setting out what we want Newcastle to be and how we will get there, working together as one city. From the plan, we are also developing a new performance and assurance framework for the council. We have a new Labour government and a devolved North East combined authority. The national focus on fairness and inclusive growth will be stronger than ever, and our work in Newcastle will be more important than ever. We're building our competitiveness and productivity through the work you can read about in my report, and I'm proud that it will be instrumental to Newcastle's successful future. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kemp. Now, we have about 20 minutes left on this item. I have 12 members wanting to ask questions. Councillor Kemp, I don't know if you want to take them in blocks of 4 or whatever, or do you want all the questions to deal with together?
And then we see how they go and see if, Lord Mayor, depends, I guess, whether they're questions or statements. Really.
Well, can I ask colleagues then to try and keep the questions as brief as possible? And first of all, we'll have Councillor Walker, followed by Councillor Ferguson, please.
I think Councillor Walker has his apologies in.
Okay, in that case, we'll have Councillor Ferguson, then followed by Councillor Barry Stanners.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and with your brief forbearance, I just want to offer my thanks to Councillor Frew in my capacity as Chair of Overview and Scrutiny for standing in and ensuring that this report was taken to the last meeting of Overview and Scrutiny in the Leader and Deputy Leader's absence. To the question at hand, I have written a letter today that I'll be publishing tomorrow to the new Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government, I believe it is now, lobbying strongly for a fairer and more equitable local government funding settlement. and also seeking clarity on the future of levelling up funding that had previously been agreed. Will the leader join me in lobbying or indeed consider co-signing the letter? Thank you.
Councillor Barrow-Stanners, I'll invite you to answer two questions together, Councillor.
Yeah.
Councillor Barrow-Stanners.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you for the report, Leader. My question is on the inclusive economic strategy that we've got in Newcastle, and just want to ask what work is ongoing to link that in with the North East Combined Authority strategy, which I believe you're also leading on. Thank you.
Before you respond, Councillor Kemp, can I say the next two questions are Councillor Kane and Councillor Hartley, if you'd like to make your way to the microphone. Over to you, Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Yes, indeed. Thank you to Councillor Frew for taking my report to scrutiny. I was, despite Councillor Ferguson's rather interesting comments in the press, which I think he has actually directly to myself apologised, I was undertaking some very interesting engagement regarding the development of economic growth in the city, meeting with numerous economic agencies in the Ruhr Valley. So I think it was a useful use of time, but also a demonstration of the calibre and quality of my cabinet that they're able to cover for me. So thank you for that observation and crediting Councillor Frew. With regards to the lobbying of government, of course, through the LGA, there is a significant amount of work ongoing. I'm very happy to continue to support that, and I have no issue in the interest of cross-party activity around submissions regarding continuation of long-term and secure funding for local government. Councillor Barrow-Stanners, thank you very much for your question. Yes, I do have indeed the dual role of the lead of the economy portfolio in the Combined Authority. I think it's incredibly important that we're able to align the activities of the inclusive economic strategy that we've developed, which is really about delivery in place and actually having that strategic role at the Combined Authority, able to inform activities such as how we go about regenerating or repurposing district hearts, for example, looking about how we ensure that the skills and training packages that are developed and delivered at a regional basis are appropriate and scoped to have benefit for the residents of Newcastle. I think it's very early days, but it's clearly a new, improved opportunity, the Combined Authority, to help us enhance and deliver at pace the inclusive economic strategy.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. Councillor Kane.
Yes, thank you, Lord Mayor. Looking at the net zero section, there's an impressive list of bullet points, but this covers the fact that in most rankings, for example, the Climate Emergency UK group, that Newcastle is just above average for similar councils, ranking 37% against an average of 35%. Given that it wasn't that long ago that Newcastle was top of the rankings by Forum of the Future for Most Sustainable City, beating many of the cities which now seem to go above us, what is Councillor Kemp going to do to try and get us back to our position at the top of the league?
Thank you, Councillor Kane. Councillor Hartley, we're taking two questions together. Councillor Hartley.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. May I put on record Newcastle Green Party's appreciation for this council's hard work for our city within such constrained budgets after 14 years of austerity. Now, a new dawn has broken, but we're still waiting for news from the new government on whether they will reverse the cuts to local authority budgets. So, Councillor Kemp, if and when we are to see new funding from Westminster, would you commit to prioritising funding for areas with higher levels of poverty, with the inverse care law in mind, about how often in stretched systems those who need the most support receive the least? And would you agree that councillors in those wards should be willing to collaborate cross-party to ensure we make the most of these opportunities and create lasting positive change for our areas?
Councillor Kane, obviously the first thing I'd do is rush to the expert and call on your good self. No, joking aside, many of the metrics of which the determinants of the priority rankings have changed over a period of time. So I'm not entirely clear, and I'll apologise if I am inaccurate in this, that it's not necessarily comparing like for like. Clearly, I would always strive and wish for Newcastle to be at the very top of those rankings, and I think that there are opportunities, but I think What the report does demonstrate is that we are making huge progress. During my report and in my oral introduction, I introduced many, many levels of investment and interventions that we have delivered as an authority. Of course, like with all authorities across the country, with the net zero challenge, there is much more to be done. We're not complacent and we will continue to do so. I am ambitious that I will never accept that what we have is good enough, but we are making good progress. Councillor Hartley, as I have already made clear in my previous comment to Councillor Ferguson, we obviously, all parties, are very committed to long-term and appropriate local government financial settlement. Will I commit to, I won't commit to anything specifically in this chamber to a question, an oral question to a cabinet report. What I would say is that this is about strategic approach. We've set out very clearly our strategic priorities and objectives as an administration, of which defending and supporting those most in need is a clear priority. So I think that goes without, that's just a given, and it's clear and writ large throughout everything that we do as an administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. The next two are Councillor Sathian and Councillor Mark Mitchell. Is it the wrong, have I been given the wrong Mitchell?
Thank you, Lord Mayor.
That's okay. Councillor Sathian.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp, for the report. Councillor Kemp, your report highlights significant progress in promoting an inclusive economy in Newcastle, such as supporting new businesses and expanding employment opportunities, which is really commendable. However, there remains a critical need to ensure that these economic benefits reach all parts of the city equitably. Could you discuss how the Council is addressing the geographical disparities within the Newcastle, particularly in areas that have historically lagged in economic development? What specific strategies are being implemented to ensure that residents in these underserved areas can fully participate in and benefit from the city's economic growth? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sathian. Did you get that question all right, Councillor Kemp? Yes.
Most of it I may come back with.
Okay. Before you answer, then over to Councillor Mark Mitchell for your question.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Councillor Kemp, quite correctly, your report does not talk about admissions policies for schools in Newcastle, mainly because most of them are academies. That said, every councillor in the chamber, I'm sure, has heard from parents from their concerns and from children's concerns about the chaos that's been in the city over admissions in the last few weeks. Could I ask you if you could raise the fact that academies no longer have to follow city admissions policies with the new government, with the hope that perhaps that this is a matter in a future report that you'll be able to tell councillors and residents that this is something that once again is looking at putting the best needs of children first.
Before you respond, Councillor Kemp, can I say the next two questions are Councillor Herridge and Councillor Christine Morrissey. Okay, Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Councillor Sathian, issues at promoting inclusive economy. The entire mission of our inclusive economy and anti-poverty priorities is to reduce inequality and remove barriers to decent, healthy lives. And we know that each and every neighbourhood faces individual challenges and have their own unique challenges. So what we are attempting to do through this inclusive strategy is looking at place-based interventions, and the inclusive economic strategy and anti-poverty strategy makes it really clear that tangible and identifying the action themes for doing this. It's individual location by location, but they are fitted under the three strategic themes, and often this is done in partnership and collaboration with our partners across the city. And we are building in measures that consider and address the geographical disparities that exist across the city. I think it's very clear that there is not one size fits all, and that was the purpose of the inclusive economic strategy, something I am very proud that does identify the diverse and interesting nature of the communities of the city. But actually making structural changes something that is long term, and the structural changes I think are going to be better able to be delivered with the establishment of the combined authority, which brings about new opportunities of different work programmes and interventions. On the question, I think the question of what have I written? What specifically? So I think I hope I captured some of it in the introduction. So things like the road shows, reaching into communities, a very different approach. So not having things necessarily as a city-centric base, actually understanding that for many of our residents, the challenges for access is something that can be both financial, it can be geographical, but it also can be something that is emotional. The idea, the fear of actually attending something in a city centre that's very formalised can be a challenge. So adopting different approaches, recognising different communities, doing things collaboratively with different agents and different partners. So actually a work and employment roadshow is something about employment for all, but it's not necessarily just simply about employment. It can be that first introduction for conversations with residents about actually what does work readiness look like? Actually, what does a CV preparation look like? We are doing things where actually there are opportunities of employment directly on the day with some of our partners. So I think we're recognising this is an evolving feast, but we are doing things very differently than happened in the past. And I'm pleased to say I think the success of this is probably identified by the collaboration and partnership with a multitude of other organisations in the city participating. I think that has captured it, and I apologise if I require anything else, I'll provide it in a written response. Councillor Mitchell, God, sorry, the question, can you, it was regarding local government funding, and also, sorry, it wasn't, it was regarding academy attendance and admittance to schools. I truly wish I had the authority and power that you assume in your question that of influence. I'm certainly clear that there has been challenges across the city this year in particular in certain locations with certain schools. As you say, the academisation of education has brought about numerous challenges and removed an awful lot of power and authority that local government previously had. I think we are very fortunate, and I would take this opportunity in this chamber to congratulate one of our city's MPs in her appointment as the Schools Minister, and I'm very happy having a conversation with our MP in an approach that we can adopt to see what form of lobbying that could be engaged.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. Can I just say that we're down to less than 10 minutes and we still have 5 questions left, so we can try and be concise in the questions and the answers as well. Councillor Herridge.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you to the leader for that report. In the interest of brevity, I'll keep my maiden speech concise so that people can get home and watch England's 2-1 victory over the Netherlands. And I also like to draw members' attention to my register of interests. So the Centre for Life in the city is not just a great place for science and events such as the fan zone being held there tonight, but it's also doing a lot of work to help underprivileged children access education. I'm glad to see that the council has been doing a lot to tackle poverty, and also the combined authority has as well. And I was just wondering what work the council is doing to work with organisations and charities such as the Centre for Life to help access to education for underprivileged children.
Thank you, Councillor Herridge, and congratulations on your maiden brief speech.
Councillor Morrissey.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Councillor Kemp, I have a very short and brief question, but I do need to put it into context, and it will not take 2 minutes to do that. On Friday, I was with a group of 6 Year 1 children who were looking at numbers, surprisingly enough, and we came up with some lovely numbers. A one that you will like, 411. A one that we like, although it was only 71 at the time, it then became 72, and now I think 73. And they were looking at one more and one less. And it was wonderful, it was lovely. It was a lovely place to be, and it was happy and what have you. But each one of those 6 children were the 3rd or 4th child in their family. So the number that I am very interested in tonight is 27. We have 27 North Eastern Labour MPs. And my brief question to you is, Can you confirm that you will contact our new MPs, including Bridget Phillipson, who is the Minister for Education, as you've said before, Catherine, to lobby their support for the removal of the two-child cap? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morrissey. Before you respond, Councillor Kemp, can I say the next two questions are Councillor Story and Councillor Ashby. Over to you, Councillor Kemp.
Councillor Herridge, once again, congratulations on your maiden speech. Can I and recognise equally the work of the Centre for Life, and I think it's very appropriate to highlight the activity that they have undertaken in recent years on their engagement with young people. I think part of the ingrained into the work of the Inclusive Economic Strategy, and indeed the work that we are doing and undertaking through the Combined Authority, is really addressing and challenging those ingrained structural inequalities that exist across the North East economy, scarred by the blight of a Conservative government of 14 years of underinvestment. All of our programmes of interventions, the work programmes of our economic development team, of our children's and young people's team, hopefully with an ambition around the establishment of a future Sure Start Mark II programme, which our new Mayor has been very keen to promote and support, and which I 100% endorse. I think it's really important that ultimately where a young person's life starts should not shape and define their future. We want to be a city of potential and opportunity, and everything that we do, all of our activities, the key priorities that we've identified as a council, I hope are putting the foundations and building blocks to ensure that everyone is able to achieve whatever they wish. Councillor Morrissey, I'm sorry I didn't come prepared with any props. I'm not in a position... No, I'm a chair of a primary school, an outstanding primary school, I might say. Very good. Biker Primary, just for record. You asked me to do. I am not going to commit on behalf of my group. I am having a conversation. We are very clear, and we will engage with government, with our skills minister and the Secretary of State around future policy objectives. I don't think it's appropriate for me to be put in a position to stand against my government. I will have conversations and constructive, meaningful engagements with our national representatives.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. Councillor Story.
Lord Mayor, Council, between Councillor Morrissey's question and Councillor Kemp's response, I have no question to put now because I feel everything that could have been said has already been said. It was about child poverty, but I'm going to leave it there.
Thank you,
I know you'll appreciate that.
You've just made yourself very popular with a section of the Council. Councillor Ashby.
Thank you, Leader, for your report in a readable format. But arising from it, can I ask about the relationship with the new government? You wrote to the previous Chancellor of the Exchequer about the implications of continued underfunding of councils in this year's local government financial settlement. Do you intend to resubmit this letter to the new Chancellor? Will you press for multi-year funding, as seems to be the case in the offer to regional mayors this week? Will you be pressing for more access to the European Union funded grants, of which we had 1.75 million last year, and a rapid restoration of government relations with the EU?
Directly to that question, I feel that there is strength in the local government family. We have recently appointed a new Labour leader in Councillor Bev Craig, leader of Manchester Council. Conversations that have taken thus far is a continuation of the lobbying around long-term appropriate funding to local government. It's very clear that the local government family are committed to that. I think we are fortunate that there are a number of previous senior leaders of councils who have recently become members of Parliament, who were part of the vanguard of the lobbying towards that settlement, long-term and secure funding. I'm confident that they will continue to make their voice, and so shall we.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. And last but not least, Councillor Greenoff.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The North East Devolution deal, highlighted in the report and negotiated by leaders, is a historic achievement. I was delighted to see the new government kicking off this week with a meeting with the regional mayors, including the North East Mayor, and with the Prime Minister. Where does the leader see the next stages of devolution in the North East? And working with the Mayor, what will be the key asks of the government going forward?
Thank you, Councillor Green. Well, I think absolutely it's incredibly important, and I think it's a demonstration of intent that the Prime Minister invited all of the elected mayors to Downing Street as one of his very first actions. It was a very constructive conversation from the catch-up I've had with Mayor McGuinness last night. I think the announcement this morning of the Leamside Lane funding is yet again further demonstration of our commitment. Clearly we want more. It's absolutely clear that the Regional Industrial Strategy sets out a very clear series of priorities of financial interventions that are required. We want to see further devolution. There is absolutely no doubt. The Mayor has been in public, made it clear that longer term fiscal devolution is an ambition. I think we are at the start of a journey, the trailblazer opportunity that we secured. I'm delighted and proud to have played the role I did in securing this deal. I think we are on a pivotal point, and I think it's exciting opportunities. Definitely more expansion, trailblazers, giving it green superport unlocks opportunities, extended enterprise zones, and an increased investment fund as a starting point. Councillor Greenough.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. Thank you, everyone. I had time that at 27 minutes, which is very good. We're almost kept within the parameters. So thanks very much for that. And we move on now to item 10 on the agenda, which is a motion to be moved by Councillor Stone and... Sorry? Oh, the appointments. Yes. Okay, we'll move on to the second. I've just been reminded by my colleague here that we have some appointments set out. I believe it's in the supplemental. So are those appointments agreed as set out, Council? Agreed, yes. So now we do move on to the motion to be moved by Councillor Stone and seconded by Councillor PJ Morrissey in relation to recycling in Newcastle. Over to you, Councillor.
No, it's about pavements, Lord Mayor. It's not about recycling.
Sorry?
It's not about recycling. It's about
recycling in Newcastle. Yes.
No, it's not. No. You're on the wrong reports, Lord Mayor.
I'm sorry. I've been given incorrect information. So we'll sort about. We'll see about that later. So I now call on Councillor Stone to move his motion to be seconded by Councillor PJ Morrissey about pavement defects and maintenance. Is that the one?
Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Yes. I don't know where this one came from,
right.
but I'm sure you've got an interest in recycling as well, Councillor Stone.
Lord Mayor, this motion may resonate with members of the public and members of this council chamber. The condition of pavements is a concern to many of them. The deteriorating state of our city's pavements represents a particular risk to older people. I've brought this motion because I'm become made aware of a growing number of serious injuries to constituents of my ward who have suffered trips and falls on uneven pathways and pavements. Those of us who have served on this council for a long time will recall the council used to carry out resident satisfaction surveys citywide. These have not been carried out since 2017, but the last survey recorded that 44% of those who responded were dissatisfied with the condition of roads and pavements in their neighbourhood, the highest level of dissatisfaction of any issue of concern. If the exercise was repeated now, that figure will be appreciably higher. Now, the council's own figures for the pavement maintenance backlog in the city in January 2024 was £109 million, based on a calculation of the cost of work urgently needed to fix serious defects rather than the provision for ongoing annual maintenance, and there has been very little annual maintenance of payments in recent years. The maintenance backlog continues to grow year on year, and as with the potholes on road surfaces, pavements have become increasingly uneven and unsafe, with seemingly no strategy for improving them. In the past, Ward has budgets of around £200,000 a year, which was not a fortune, but with careful stewardship, Ward councillors could ensure that streets in particular poor condition could be improved. Equally, council taxpayers could see that the council was taking action to fix the problems they had reported in their neighbourhood. Over several years, I and my ward colleagues took steps to tackle the worst affected neighbourhoods of my ward, but I regret that following a change of control and a change of priorities, that budget stopped. Sherfield Drive and St Julian Gardens on Cochrane Park were the last two streets in the area which were due to be tackled under our programme, but those plans had to be shelved and now, 12 years on, are in extremely poor condition. This is being exacerbated by problems of pavement parking. Cochrane Park was built in the 1930s with streets narrower than modern standards and cars frequently parked with two wheels up on the pavement. The rise in heavier vehicles like pickup trucks and home delivery vans parking with two wheels on the pavement has led to more and more flagstones and curbstones being broken and hazardous. Just this afternoon, I took a phone call from a resident of St Julian Gardens on Cochrane Park who recently sustained a nasty injury and now lacks the confidence to go out alone because they fear being injured again. They are seeking advice about a personal injury compensation claim. I've begun to lose count of the number of residents who have contacted me in recent months with distressing reports about injuries they or an elderly relative have sustained. As a councillor for over 25 years who has been conscientious about prioritising local neighbourhoods and responding promptly when concerns are raised, it causes me pain to know that my constituents are being badly injured because of the dangerous state of the pavements. The pain experienced by me is less than residents who have sustained painful broken bones, broken jaws, fractured limbs, lost teeth, black eyes is even greater. Now, some may ask what I've done to tackle this. I've been assiduous in reporting loose, rocking and uneven flags and curbstones I encounter in the ward. In some of the worst affected areas like Bretton Gardens and St Julian Gardens, as I've mentioned, I've reported numerous defects on numerous occasions. I receive an automated job completed email, but sometimes a flag or two is replaced or reset, but increasingly jobs are reported as complete are being left untouched when I've sought to establish why this is. I've been advised that it is down to service managers to determine when such faults will be fixed, or not, or in some cases even if they will be fixed. Now, I am not unsympathetic to the challenges that officers are facing in dealing with a situation where the level of repairs needed is far exceeding the resource available to tackle it. But I can remember a time when there was statutory performance standards on tackling pavement defects. And if that policy has changed, I don't recall that being reported to this council. If there has been a stealth change in policy, perhaps the administration can confirm tonight if that is the case, because the public deserves to know what the current performance levels are and what the trigger levels for intervention and for action to be taken might be. I therefore seek to trigger a councillor call for action on this issue to request a scrutiny investigation and a policy review covering performance management and recommendations of how this clear problem can be addressed going forward. It is said that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but when it comes to the pavements in Newcastle, even the good intentions are wearing out. So I urge the new government to take urgent steps to introduce pavement parking legislation and to invest in pedestrians and pavements as well as in repairing potholes. And I look forward to working across the chamber to get this issue looked into so we can start to get our pavements repaired and fewer old people are put in hospital with broken bones and broken jaws with their jaws wired up as they're being fed through a tube. That is not good enough, Lord Mayor. I will not stand for it. I'm sure other members of this council will feel the same way. I hope we can work together to find some solutions on this issue. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Stone. Thank you. Councillor P.J. Morrissey. Second the motion.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. There's very few things that happen to us that turns out good, or bad things that turn out good. The potholes, I think, is one of the reasons why I am here. I fell into one day in Felham and got the sympathy of the whole ward. So the potholes have helped me that way. Anyway, just to look at a few things. The number of people who fall and are afraid to go out and are socially isolated because of it. The number of people who fall and must do a second visit to the NHS, putting more costs on our hospital system. Give you an example, a man was out one day with his wife who had just had a knee replacement operation. She fell on a loose curb. Result, back into hospital, redo the operation because of the loose curbs. Somebody else was going into Elsie Pool. She fell into a hole when she came out. She was off work so long on recuperation that by the time she was able to return to her job, she had no pay. She went from full-time pay to half pay to no pay. She lost out very deeply in the financial area. And again, because of potholes. All these accidents are avoidable. They're not just something that will happen. They could have been avoided, but we're all getting tired and getting weary of the potholes, and people are tired of it. You go in then also, and garages are every day telling us somebody else came in with the suspension of their car gone because of potholes. So people are paying individually a very high price for these potholes. So I support this, and I ask everybody else to have a think about it, what is happening to individuals, and to support it when we come to a vote, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Morrissey. Thank you. Now, I have a number of speakers on the motion, so when you are speaking, could you say whether you are for or against the motion, in favour or not in favour of the motion? I'll have Councillor Ali followed by Councillor Ferguson, please. Sorry? Councillor Ferguson to be followed by Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and just for the avoidance of doubt, I am speaking in favour of the motion. Lord Mayor, I want to tell Councillor a story. It was shared with me by a resident who, out of respect, I will not name. However, she agreed that I should tell her story because the human element underpinning this motion is so critical. My resident tore her Achilles tendon, not to do with pavements, but it was what happened after that mattered. Previously sure on her feet, she has been going through a painful and protracted recovery. She had been wheelchair bound for some time, but now can just about manage on crutches. She is housebound. Unless she has help, she doesn't have the confidence to go out. When she was in her wheelchair, only her husband had the physical strength necessary to navigate the pavements and take her out, she told me. Now she's on crutches, an early foray out when she nearly fell after tripping on a loose paving slab put paid to that idea. It's not like she wants to go far. 200 metres up to the local pharmacy for a prescription medication, a short walk to the local green. But despite reporting the loose paving slabs just outside her house several times, they remain unfixed and dangerous for her. The walk up to the pharmacy along a main road is, in her words, treacherous. And this is just one story from one resident in one part of one ward. My wife got caught out by a loose paving slab whilst taking our son to nursery in a front-facing harness. Net result, one split knee for her and one bruised face for him. It's not enough to say that cash is tight. We can look at data and diagrams and details and distance ourselves from the human stories behind the statistics. My resident was distraught. Her freedom has been robbed from her. Despite the warm words earlier in proceedings, we must all know this Labour government has committed no new funding to local authorities. The continued squeeze goes on. So, will we take our own fate into our own hands and strain every sinew to find innovative solutions to this problem affecting our residents, or will we submit to further decline?
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Williams to be followed by Councillor Musharraf, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I will address the motion as put forward, and firstly the public safety, the public satisfaction surveys. Whilst we may not have undertaken the place survey as we committed to collecting our residents' views on highways and transportation issues, Newcastle City Council participates in the National Highways and Transport Public Satisfaction Survey, known as the NHT survey. This survey collects the public's views on different aspects of highway and transport in local authority areas and covers highway maintenance, accessibility, active travel, public transport, and other items. Our 2023 results can be found online if you go to nhtnetwork.co.uk. This is similar to the residents' survey and confirms that 46% of our residents are satisfied with the highway maintenance against a national average of 43%. It also confirms that our residents want us to prioritise spending on improving the road condition and secondly improving the condition of pavements. We continue to participate in this national recognised public satisfaction survey. With regard to our maintenance backlog, officers attended Shadow Cabinet in November 2023 and presented a paper regarding highway investment and detailed the backlog for both roads and pavements. Officers also explained the current and historical figures showing how much of our network is in need of treatment. This paper also explained the NHT survey mentioned previously. This paper also explained that to maintain the footpaths in their current condition would require £5.25 million per annum, which is above and beyond our current capital allocation from central government for all highway assets. The deteriorating condition of the highway network is not localised to Newcastle and is recognised as a national issue. The 2023 Annual Local Authority Road Maintenance Survey, ALARM, commissioned by the Asphalt Industry Alliance, gives an overview of the condition of the road network as reported by highway authorities themselves. This has identified that there is a maintenance backlog of 14.02 billion, with residential roads only being resurfaced on average every 200 years, and the average backlog to clear carriageway maintenance for each authority, £160 million in England.
30 seconds, Councillor Williams.
We have looked at highway investment options based on differing levels of service. However, as a local authority have found, while short-term prudential borrowing can initially improve the condition, this cannot be maintained as a sustainable long-term level of funding. To this end, we continue to lobby government for long-term additional funding. The Council continue to operate a robust highway inspection and repair system across the city to maintain the highway in a safe and serviceable condition in challenging times. Our robust highway inspection procedure also allows us to defend the majority of claims that are made against the Council for compensation due to slips, trips and falls. Over the last 5 years, we have defended around 90% of claims, with reserve against the claims ranging from a few £100 up to the highest value of a single claim of 1.4 million. You state that from 2019 to date that we have paid out more than £350,000 in settlement of personal injury claims relating to pavement defects. This is a significant improvement on the previous 5 years.
That's a nice way to finish. Nice way to finish. Okay, thank you very much for that, Councillor Musharraf, and then to be followed by Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'd like to take this opportunity to take my maiden speech today. First of all, I would like to thank the residents of Elzig to put their trust on me to be their councillor, and I would like to thank all the councillors here to support me last 2 months to get into my role, and all the support we have received from the excellent council officers. Thank you for this motion. Just for record also, I'm speaking in the favor of this motion, and it is a very timely one for me because this is also a key reason why I came into this. That's probably one of the reasons as well why I became a councillor. And I echo everything has been said about why it is important for us to have a maintenance of the pavement. And in this way, I have written twice just because of the issues being raised by the residents regarding those pavements. And however, I want to mention it's not about only what repair we are doing, also it's about the prevention and if we are getting the value for the quality of the work is happening there. Recently, when all those big mega projects happen in the city, all those pavement which has been relayed, all those quality of the work, I really would urge for us to keep an eye on them and track on them. And could there be a possibility to have a quality assurance team to make sure these works are up to the standard? I'd also like to address the issue specifically in my area in Bantic Road, where we know a couple of years ago in a tragic accident, one of the residents had died, and there's one of the reasons behind of those illegal parking on the pavements. And just before yesterday, I received an information from the residents, and which I passed to the right authority, where the car was fully blocking a pavement. If you think about a late night when an elderly going out for a walk and a pavement has been blocked, where they're going to go. So I would like to know what enforcement we can arrange to make sure that kind of parking at night doesn't happen. I'd quickly wants to mention about the policy council have regarding the tree cutting to save the pavement. Have we got any? Can you look into the policy of the cutting trees down based on the damage on the pavement, and can you look into the root barrier so that it doesn't create any damage on the pavement and it subsequently go on the road? And I would also wants the residents to have from the planning planning office to guide them to not to have the trees in the garden rather than in the front of their house, which would have eventually affect the condition of the pavements and on the road. Thank you very much, the councillors, and thank you very much, Lord Mayor, for having me.
Thank you, Councillor Musharraf, and I think that was your maiden speech, so I appreciate it very much indeed. And now Councillor Taylor to be followed by Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. In November 2001, I brought a motion to Council on this very issue, and that motion pointed out that the highways network is the most valuable asset of the City Council with a full replacement cost of £3 billion, that it's used by every resident and visitor to the city, and that every journey begins and ends with a road or footpath. The economic and social well-being of the city relies on the network being safe, accessible and fit for purpose. At that time, Newcastle had a maintenance backlog of 184 million, 75 million for roads and 109 million for pavements. And over 200 streets in Newcastle had more than 80% of the length needing treatment. It pointed out that potholes, uneven surfaces and broken pavements are a serious risk to cyclists and pedestrians, and that poor pavements are a particular risk to frail, disabled and visually impaired residents. And it also pointed out that the poor state of Newcastle's residential roads and pavements was one of the top concerns of local residents. So it's really disappointing that nearly 3 years later, rather than seeing some improvement, the situation has become even worse. Every time I walk around my ward, I find examples of significant trip hazard, loose and uneven paving stones and large potholes. These remain a serious hazard to pedestrians and cyclists and a cause of trips, falls and injuries. I know of one cyclist who sustained a serious injury due to potholes in one of the Dean and South Gosforth residential streets, and another resident who broke his leg due to an uneven pavement. In November 21, I suggested the Council should prepare a business case to consider a capital investment to tackle the maintenance backlog. The motion was rejected, and with rising interest rates, that option would now be much more difficult. Of course, I'd love to think that the new Labour government will announce major funding to tackle the backlog of repairs, but I'm not holding my breath. Though having just seen my party win its best general election result for a century, perhaps miracles can happen. However, the Council does need to accept we can't continue to let our pavements deteriorate, and that residents deserve that this problem is given more priority. Simply to say it's a problem everywhere just isn't good enough. So let's write to the new ministers and see what they have to say, and I just hope that they don't just say, we'll think about it in a few years' time. Please support the motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Now, I hope that all of us in this chamber are here because we want the residents of this great city to lead happy and healthy lives. However, at present, we have a situation where the safety of some of our residents is being compromised by pavement defects that are causing them physical harm, expense and distress. I can give two examples that I've been told about recently. Both involve female residents of Parklands Ward, neither of whom have walking difficulties and both are otherwise fit and healthy. Resident 1 tripped on an uneven pavement and suffered 2 badly bruised knees, a grazed lower lip and a knock to her teeth requiring dental treatment. This was obviously expensive as well as painful and stressful. Resident 2 has recently had 2 falls on uneven pavements. In the first, she suffered a head injury, an avulsion fracture, black eyes and other damage that required several visits to the RVI, one of which took 10 hours. In the second fall, she suffered a cracked scaphoid, which involved being in a splint for weeks, as well as other injuries involving 3 hospital appointments. and in each of these incidents she broke a pair of bifocal spectacles costing hundreds of pounds. So apart from quite serious physical damage, she's had the stress of multiple hospital visits and the expense of repairing spectacles twice. This is not right. Neither of these residents have been kept safe on our streets, and unfortunately these are not isolated incidents. In Parklands Ward we have many street trees, which most of our residents love and wish to retain. But these trees bring additional hazards when the roots lift the pavements in places and cause additional trip hazards. We don't want to lose the trees, we just want a service that repairs and makes safe the pavements around these trees. So what I'd like to see is this council take immediate action on this issue, and I hope that we can now see this new government stepping in with funding to make our city streets safer for us all to walk on. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Allen. Now, I've had 6 speakers who notified me in advance of the meeting. I'm just getting some guidance here from them. Right, it's just been pointed out to me that we do have room for one more speaker because Councillor Ali, of course, forgo her right to speak, but in fact it's Councillor Lovett whose name I had on the list, and we had to take Councillor Lovett off because we'd exceeded 6 speakers. So, Councillor Lovett, if you would like to speak.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The 2021 survey of roads and pavements is available on the Newcastle City website for all wards. Some wards have a more critical, or some wards are in a more critical state than others. My own ward of Fordon and West Gosforth has had several roads completely resurfaced over the last 4 years, most notably Fordon Lane, the Meadows, Ayton Crescent and Edgefield Avenue. We've had traffic calming implemented, all of which we're very grateful for. In other areas, much needed sections of road have been cut out and relayed. In total, we have reported 31 potholes, which required immediate attention since the 1st of January 2024. Most of these have been completed, and most of our potholes in the ward we are on top of. However, several sections of road, including Archibald Street, are awaiting permanent repairs, and some highways in the ward, which were highlighted as a priority for resurfacing in 2008, are still waiting to be completed in 2024. Coming from a continuous improvement background, I'm very concerned about the amount of rework and waste, filling potholes on top of potholes and going back to the same pothole repeatedly as false economy. On footpaths, large areas of pavement at Regent Centre have been replaced within the last 6 years, but nothing major other than this that I may recall. Footpaths are generally dealt with through complaints raised by residents. Many miles of footpaths in Regent Farm, Headley Farm, Cox Lodge and Fordon were identified as deteriorating or in a poor condition in the 2021 survey. These have deteriorated even further in the subsequent 3-year period. More needs to be done from a promotional point of view about pavement parking. Damage from vehicles, including delivery vehicles, is becoming an increasing problem and is increasing, obviously, the pavement damage. I am sure we can all agree something needs to change, and that along with the other recommendations, a formal policy review might be a good start to tackle the ongoing issue. Lord Mayor, I support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Lovett. And then back to Councillor Stone for your right to reply.
Thank you to colleagues who have contributed to the debate. I have heard, particularly from Councillor Allen and Councillor Ferguson, Councillor Taylor have talked about their experiences of constituents who have sustained serious injury recently. I would make the point, if I may, that the motion was particularly about pavements. I do get there are potholes issues and roads resurfacing issues across the city as well, and their problems are a nuisance and an inconvenience to many people, but I'm particularly concerned in this motion about pavements. I recall that we have previously sort of talked about, I remember talking about the city's charter for streets, which is particularly designed for the needs and the concerns of disabled people and people with visual impairment in the city. I hope that the 2017 charter that we adopted as a council will be revisited by this council at some point, and we can monitor progress that's been made in it, because I think it is a very important issue which clearly the impact and the obstacles that are faced by people with visual impairment and or mobility issues, they face particular challenges when it comes to navigating the pavement safely, particularly given the condition they're in. So those were my major points of response. There's one further point. I know Councillor Williams referred to a shadow cabinet briefing in her remarks. I'm puzzled as to how she knows about shadow cabinet briefings. I understood it was a principle in this council that groups could be briefed in confidence by relevant people at appropriate times without that being shared with other groups. So I'm sure that Alliance I will be making further inquiries about that, and Councillor Williams might be able to tell us a bit more about that in due course. However, there is one final point I'd make. There is clearly a financial issue involved, and I do fundamentally understand that. I don't have free rein on behalf of my group or my party to make policy on the hoof at this particular dispatch box, but I will make the suggestion that I, for one, would like to see a situation whereby the proliferation of delivery vehicles, whether it be the supermarkets, or whether it be Amazon or whoever else it may be, that some form of principle of taxation on those particular home delivery firms might be ring-fenced for contribution towards funding pavement repairs. That's my personal position rather than a Liberal Democrat National Party political position, but I think it's a good idea and I hope we'll support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stone. We'll move to the vote on this. I assume that the motion is not agreed by Council, so we'll move to a vote with a mixture of go vote and people who can't access go vote, if we can indicate. So first of all, it's voting for those in favour of the motion, if we can. And if anyone is struggling with the technology, if you can just raise your hand. Favour of the motion. So let's go across the council chamber over here. Sure about
My colour is wrong on the screen.
What, you've pressed the button and it's come out? Yeah. Right, and you're right. That's Councillor Hartley. Councillor Hartley, right? And you can. Right. So Councillor Hartley, this is where the chaos starts, isn't it? So Councillor Hartley, have you got your vote correctly recorded now, have we?
I am colourblind, I have to admit.
Right, okay, which might be an issue in the future.
Yeah.
Who's that? So we got that one sorted out. Got that one.
Am I in 63? Is that right? Well, if I try and vote no.
So we have. Can someone help me to sort this out? So what number seat is that one over there? Where's 63? slightly chaotic. If you can just bear with us, we this is rapidly descending into semi-chaos. In the good old days, we all used to stick our hands up. I remember.
Lord Mayor, it would be helpful if members could confirm, first of all, whether the vote that's on the screen correctly reflects their vote or if not.
So yes.
So before anybody else puts the hand up about being able to vote, could we just check that the votes that are showing on the screen are correct?
Okay.
So that'd be the first step. Because I think there's an issue with...
It says that I'm in seat number 54, which I think is Councillor Hay.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether Councillor Hay is voting for...
Okay.
Yeah, because...
So I think if that's the only sort of complication, I think those two votes equal each other out. So if we could then move to the other people who might not have been able to vote. And Councillor Rahman?
So the people who have been able to vote, can you stand up, can you give your name and tell us what your vote is, please, just to make it clear, okay?
Councillor Rahman voting for yes.
You're voting no, okay? Voting no, was that? Sorry, Teresa, I couldn't hear. Was it no? Yeah. Okay. Just need to speak up a little bit. And Councillor Shatwell? Okay. And we work that out.
I've got 4 people.
I've got 26.
So, Lord Mayor, according to our figures, it's 29 yes and 29 no.
Oh, gosh.
In which case, where there's a parity, unless the Lord Mayor uses a casting vote, a motion will fail if there is a parity of votes, or it will fall, sorry.
Gosh. Just careful. Quiet, please. Quiet, please. Quiet, please. So I thought you said it was 29.
It is.
So the motion falls. Okay, right. Right. I'm told that because it's 29 votes for and 29 votes against, that in that case the motion would fall even without my vote. So I don't want to go and upset an awful lot of people in the council chamber. So I'm not going to cast my vote. So it's 29 votes in favour of the motion. 20. Well, I'm guided by our legal officer. If you'd like to make a point of order, and I'll seek guidance from our legal officer. Yep. Well, you can make the point of order from the microphone. Yep. Okay.
Sorry, I apologise. Not wishing to put the Deputy Mayor in a bind, but can I clarify whether the Deputy Mayor is or is not allowed to vote in votes generally?
It's my choice, and I choose.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll remain neutral on every vote.
So the Lord Mayor and the Sheriff are remaining neutral on this vote. So it's 29 votes in favour, 29 votes against. So I'm told by my legal advisor that in fact on that basis the motion fails. Okay, the motion is not carried. No, what? Sorry. You what? Sorry. You let the constituents know about it. Right, well that concludes the business for the evening. So can I thank you all for your attendance? Can I thank people for being very concise this evening? Can I remind you that the next meeting, council meeting, is Wednesday the 4th of September? Can I remind you please to stay in your places until myself and the Sheriff have left the council chamber? Thank you very much indeed, because that is protocol. Thank you.